All right, guys, here we are at Bluesman Vintage today, and we have a really, really special guest with us. We have Mr. Jigger Bridges with us today. He is a very famous bass player. You know you've heard him. You may not know you've heard him, but I know that you have. So Jerry's going to tell us a little bit about his history in the music business, and I think it's going to be an interesting story. So Jerry, tell us a little bit about what got you started, or where you got your start and when you started, and kind of give us the lineage of the timeline of your career.
Okay, I grew up in Red Bay, Alabama,
which
is 45 minutes from Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And Muscle Shoals is where Muscle Shoals Sound, Fame Recording Studios. It is, in the years I was growing up, if you wanted to make it in the music business and you could secure any kind of job there, then you had made it. At the time I started working there, they were, I think that 1 out of every 10 songs that was cut in the area for the year became top 10.
Wow.
Most of them were top 5. I used to work at a place called Club 13 up on the line, and Rick Hall, who owned the Fame Recording Studios, used to go up there all the time, and he would party. And one night, he had partied just a little bit too much, and I got to drive him home.
Opportunities knocking.
Opportunities knocking. So I drove Mr. Hall back to the studio. On the way, we talked music and that sort of thing. And he told me, he said, "Be ready, I'll call you." And I thought that was the last thing that would happen. But anyway, he did call me. And I came in, I played guitar on a lot of the sessions when I first started. The Osmonds, Donnie Osmond, I played on Puppy Love. I did all of Marie's stuff, Odia Coates. Paul Anka, I did Having My Baby, which was #1. Did the Mac Davis stuff, Hooked on Me, and Stop and Smell the Roses, all of those. And of course, a lot of R&B stuff. That's what I love more than anything.
Right.
And we were on a session down there one day, and the bass player didn't show up. And Rick was wanting to cut, and he knew I played a little bass, but not much. But he said, "Why don't you just take the handle until the bass player shows up?" So I did that and got the session job as a bass player. When I picked up the bass, it felt very natural, using my fingers. I can't play bass with a pick today. I cannot do it.
Oh, wow.
It does not feel right. But anyway, that's where I started playing. Played the old 57P bass that Fame had at the time, which now is in the Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
And Rick, I heard you talking earlier about people who are superstitious about sounds and stuff. Well, Rick was that way with that bass. Would not change strings. He tried everything from soaking them in buttermilk to some weird off-the-wall thing, you know.
Yeah, I've heard talcum powder.
Talcum powder.
Yeah, that works.
Best thing, worst is snap them. But anyway, I did that for several years, 4 or 5 years, I think it was, that I was with the Fame gang.
Wow.
Down there. So that's pretty much it as far as my
far
session. Then I moved here in 1978.
Okay.
I moved up here not to do anything but write. I had an opportunity to be a writer. I had a contract offer. But when I got up here, I was here 30 days, and the engineer at the studio knew there was a Muscle Shoals bass player in town, and Waylon was in the studio cutting. His bass player had an accident, broke his wrist, of all things.
Okay. Now, who was the bass player prior to you?
Sherman Hayes.
That's right. Okay.
And anyway, the guy told Waylon about me, and Waylon said, "Well, give him a call." He said, "I love Muscle Shoals. You know, the bass players play aggressive, and that's what they want." So I went over there and I did a couple of songs with him, Good Old Boys, played a remake on Amanda, which is weird when you go into an artist like that and the first thing you do is play on his greatest hits. I mean, and Waylon asked me, he said, "Hoss, I need somebody to play. You want to go on the road for 14 days? He had a 14-day tour lined up." And I said, "Sure." And I went out and played the gigs. What was weird about this was I didn't really know any Waylon music. And I said, "Do we rehearse?" And he said, "We don't rehearse. That's something we just don't do that. I don't know how to rehearse." So he handed me 60 albums.
Oh, Lord.
And I took those albums and went home and just started spot checking stuff. Got on the bus with Gordon Payne, stayed up all night on the way to Miami. And all the gigs were sold out, and there were 20 and 30,000 seaters. And I had never experienced anything like that, to walk on stage.
Right.
My biggest gig was maybe 5,000 people or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, learned the songs best I could on the way down there. Then as I was getting ready to take the stage, I said, does anybody got a set list? And that's when everyone just broke up and started laughing and said, we also don't do set lists. They don't rehearse, they don't have set lists. All you do is you wait till Waylon hits the first chord and plays one bar, and then you start.
Then you jump in and hang on.
And that's it, and it worked beautifully, and that's just what they looked for. And,
Wow.
And my deal with Waylon lasted for 23 years, a little over. Finally, we went at the end of the thing, we had Waymore's Blues Band, which was a 13-piece band. Waylon always wanted horns in the band, and finally had the opportunity to do it. And it was just absolutely incredible.
So
I can't say enough good stuff about it.
right, I'm sure there's some great road stories, from those days. Give us something that was it's kind of a little bit of an inside view on something of what you guys did.
I've told this story before, but my favorite thing is we were touring and going into Canada with Willie Nelson, and Waylon was always afraid to be anywhere near Willie because he knew there was always a chance of somebody getting busted along the way.
Oh yeah.
So Waylon took Willie off the side and said, Willie, I tell you what, man, going across the border, you really got to do something. You ought to have your bus fumigated. You ought to have it cleaned. Do whatever you can. So Willie did just that. He took it in and had it sprayed from the inside out. It was perfect. And when we got to the border, they brought the dogs on Willie's bus, and the dogs were confused. There was so much remnants of pot still on the bus. The dogs just sat.
They didn't even know where to look.
It was like they were in a giant joint. That's what it was like. We sat back and watched all this happening. Our bus was behind him, and Waylon said, "Man, this, I can't believe that they're letting him go." Well, when he got through the thing, we stopped. They took us off the bus and took us inside, and I don't know if they were frustrated or what it was, but somebody mentioned something about a strip search, and when they said that, all of us pulled out our badges. We had 7 badges. All of us were honorary police, and we'd been given that distinction by Fate Thomas, who was policeman at the time. He was sheriff at the time, I think.
Here in Nashville?
Here in Nashville. So we just all took the badges out, threw them on the table, and the frustrated police let us go ahead and go through.
Just let you go through, because there's not much they're going to do to you at that point. Yeah.
And I heard that 100 yards back there were certain items that had been buried, but I don't know what that was.
Yeah, right, for sure. Well, that's a really great story. We thank you for coming in. And tell us a little bit about the amps that we're sitting behind us here. These are all amps that belong to Waylon over the years that you acquired from him.
Yeah.
So tell us just real briefly, kind of what we're looking at here and what you got.
Let me start with this one. It's a 61. This is one that I found that was in storage under a whole bunch of stuff, and I love the old vintage amps. I love the way they sound. I asked Waylon about if it was okay with him, I'd bring this thing back to life and use it some, and he said sure. So I did that. Had Mojo made the 210 cabinet. And after I did that, he said, "Man, you love it so much, why don't you just keep it?" And anyway, this became mine. Then later on, he knew how I felt about the old stuff. He gave me this for my birthday. This is a 58. And the 2 amps sound totally different.
Yeah, they're different animals.
This is a beefy little boy that sounds great if you get him on stage. And the louder you play it, and the more aggressive you are, the better that amp likes it. And this one has been on more recordings than that one because I could turn it down and control it, with an engineer. You can get a great sound with this, a great distorted sound that's just so warm. It's better than any pedal you could ever use.
Right.
And just be aggressive with that also. And this came from a friend of mine in Muscle Shoals when I was down there. There was a band called the Del Rays that had this amp. A great little band, and I got to play with them some. The lead singer actually had this, and he just said, "Man, you need to take this. You love it so much." So he gave that to me, and that's pretty much it on the amps.
Jerry, is there anywhere where they can find out more about you other than just Google? I mean, you can Google Waylon Jennings and find out a lot of your history.
Google is the best thing to do. If you go in and ask for Jerry Jigger, that's Jigge, or Bridges, the discography will come up. That'll show you all the records and stuff. You can go to WaymoresOutlaws.com, which is Waylon's band. We're still touring. It'll give you some bios and that sort of thing. That's pretty much it. Go back and buy all 70 albums and turn them over.
There you go. So there you go. Over 70 albums worth of hits with Jerry Bridges here. Just, I'm kind of speechless and overwhelmed by the amount of legacy that you're bringing into the shop today. So I mean, thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you so much for bringing in the gear and stuff. And so, if you want to check out more of what we do here at Bluesman Vintage, check us out at bluesmanvintage.com.
And you do need to check it out.